Good day, it's Tim Gileo with the rest of the story on the 2nd of October 2019. It's a second video for the day. The first one, of course, was about our political situation, meaning that we're in the middle of an election, geopolitical, where we're looking at what's going on around the world. For those of you that watch mainstream media, this might come as a shock to you, but the Trump impeachment 4.0 is going to go down just like all the rest of the first three impeachments. It's a nothing burger. There's no there except for these have been great traps, because every time they try one of these things, they're kind of set up, and the setup allows the deep state, when they're in the swamp, when they're trying to trap Donald Trump on President Trump on their desire to remove him from power. What they're doing is they're exposing their own crimes. So they keep bringing out more and more of their own crimes. Well, Trump's kind of limited. He can't expose those crimes because of his, unfortunately, Obama pardoned him. So for Trump to say anything about him is against the law. So he doesn't. He just waits for them to do it. And once they open up Pandora's box, then he's free to go ahead and go after him. That's what you're seeing with the Joe Biden stuff. Trump didn't do that. They did that, and they exposed all those crimes. There's also, Hillary Clinton's server there, and a few other the other things that are going to come out. So basically, in the U.S., that's taken care of. You're looking at soon they're going to start releasing the FISA information. Of course, today we had the Vatican had a raid by its own police force. So it's looking into corruption and collusion over there, and into some of the pedophile rings, the homosexual pedophile rings that are going on in that place as well. At least you hope they are. So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what comes out of there. The UK, of course, you've got Brexit, and the globalists are behaving the same way as they're behaving in Canada under the Liberals, or the US under the Democrats. These globalists don't care what the people want. I mean, you could have 99.99% of the people vote for one thing, and they're going to give you what they damn well want. There's not much you can do about it. That's just kind of the way they are. So, I mean, this is the fight we're in the world. The populist or nationalist movement, that's all about taking back their rights, putting the power back into the people. So in Canada, we're looking at a situation where we know that if the Liberals get back in power, that there's a real opportunity here, a real chance that the West is going to separate. Now, why I say opportunity or chance is because now for the first time we actually got political leaders that are coming out talking about that. So they're talking about, hey, let's look at going on our own. If these guys actually, if the East is crazy enough to reelect this retard, let's go on our own. So is the East gonna say yes to that? Well, no. It's like an article or a cartoon that clipping out of a 1915 newspaper that shows. So here you got the three western provinces that at that time was Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, the prairie provinces. They're feeding a cow on one end, and the back end you got the eastern provinces, primarily Ottawa and the Laurentian Valley in Quebec, sucking all the milking the cow. So this is when we're talking about a lot of people believe it's just the National Energy Program from the first Trudeau era that created the ideal of the separatist movement in Western Canada, but it's actually it's over 100 years old. This is a very intergenerational attitude towards what's gone on between the East and the West. I like to refer to it when I would hire guys from working in the oil patch, and I would hire guys coming from I'd get hired to work for me, coming from Eastern Canada, and it says, oh yeah, we're making way more dollars per hour, but our taxes are way higher, and the price of beer. Beer used to get them. So back out here, a case of beer was 12. Well, back there, a case of beer was 24, and out here for 12, you paid more than you paid for 24. So they were a little bit annoyed by that. So, I used to tell them, I said, yeah, but Western beer's got more alcohol. It doesn't, but you have to tell them something. So that was one of the indicators. Look at the cost of living out here, the cost of food, the cost of everything in the West has always been significantly higher. The service fees that the government has to charge you, the taxes the government has to charge you, because these equalization payments have been killing the West for a long time, right? I mean, the idea was to be equal. We're far from equal. So the people in the West, they have it's people like to say about Quebec separation, but Quebec separation really isn't about separating. Quebec separation is about getting more concessions from the rest of us. So, it's the fear mongering, what's going to happen in Canada if we separate and blah, blah, blah. Now, is Quebec and Ontario and, are the elite in Canada, in the eastern part of Canada, I mean, are they going to let Canada just turn around and walk away? Or the Western Canada? And the answer is absolutely not. They're going to do everything they can. They'll send in the army, whatever they have, send in the police, send in whoever they can to try to stop it. So as soon as they start to get a little bit of an uprising, they're going to try to quell it as quickly as they can. They're going to try to put as much division between the natives and the non-natives, right? Between the Muslims and and non-natives and blacks and whites, and because that's what they do. As long as they divide to conquer us, and that's the Liberals are really good at it. So if they get back in power, you can guarantee that's going to be one of their major themes. So they're going to use, it doesn't matter, they're going to go to the Muslim community that they've the millions that they've let in under the Liberals, and they're going to say, look, they're attacking the Muslims in Western Canada here, we'll arm you, and you got to go protect your Muslim brothers. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I can, you can theorize all the different ways they're going to try to shut it down. The difference with this one is you actually have support coming out of when you have support coming out of your governments, out of your provincial governments. Now you have a situation where the federal government, if it steps on that boundary, it's like Quebec. If it steps over that boundary, now you're probably into civil war. So if they allow the division to stand, then you're in civil war. If they don't, the best you can hope for is then revolutionary war. But what I do see, just with the threat of that out there, I see a mass exodus of Eastern Canada. If Trudeau gets back in and the West starts to separate, you're going to see people in Eastern Canada. There's going to be a mass exodus to leave Eastern Canada. I mean, the gravy train is going to be in the West. This is where the resources are. That's where the money is. The East has been sucking off the West for so long. Do you think the West is going to take any of that debt? No. Right? They've already paid the debt. They paid into it. It's yours, right? You can have her. So I mean, it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of issues to fight over. So, but there's two types of fights. So the first type of fight, of course, is a civil war where they can try to get us against each other, in which case that could erupt and involve all of Canada. Well, it kind of will involve all of Canada. The second one is a revolutionary war. Now, hopefully the leaders that are in the West are smart enough that they can turn a civil action into a revolutionary action. Now, revolutionary action is something that all of us people that have been, that are born and raised here and generationally been in Canada, we all have the same issue. We go and we want something done. We go talk to a bureaucrat. The bureaucrat dictates. It doesn't matter what the law is. The bureaucrat dictates and does whatever they want. So why is that? A lot of times the bureaucrats, who are they? Most of the time they can't speak either the official languages very well. Why is that? Because then they'll vote for the ruling party, the Liberals that brought them in. Why? Because they gave them this great life. The same reason why we bring immigrants in and we treat them better than we treat our own people. It's pandering for votes with our money. So the first thing you do in a revolutionary war is you remove these faceless bureaucrats. You remove these politicians, right? The elite get removed. Do they like it? Absolutely not. That's why they don't want revolutions, right? Because now instead of us fighting each other, we go after these people, right? And we build a system that's fair for us as Canadians. I don't care what color your skin is or what religion you are in Canada, right? If you're born and raised here and your first loyalty is to Canada, then I believe you have a right to run as a politician. But if you look at where we're sitting right now with how many MPs are sitting there running that as ministers that are they weren't born and raised here. Right? These are immigrant Canadians that are dictating how everything's running, how everything's going to run in Canada. Well, they came from third world asshole countries, and now they're trying to turn us into a third world asshole country. Why? Because that's what they know. They don't know any better. So why the hell are we letting them even in power? So that's one of the first issues that revolutionary wars take care of. We get rid of that. Now we can start to change our system. We know our system's broken already federally. But our provincial systems are set up as exact copies of our federal systems. So one of the problems with that is we understand that once somebody gets elected into power, once they have a majority, that they're a dictator for 4 years. So you have a dictatorial system. So there are no checks and balances. The thing we see in the U.S., I mean, the U.S. has been offside because you've had 50 years of, basically since Kennedy got assassinated, of of criminal enterprises running the damn country, right? Trying their best. Anytime somebody tried to stop it, they've been removed or had to fall in line. So I mean, that was the creation of the CIA that started that. I mean, you can go back. They've been talking about it. It'll be part of the history books here pretty quick. One of the things that they're going to do is they'll have to remove the CIA. Now, if you understand what got Kennedy killed before this started, so Kennedy did a speech, right? I mean, I wrote about it the other day on my Facebook. When Kennedy did the speech, part of the speech was he wanted to bust the CIA up and scatter it into the wind, right? So eventually, what's going to happen? It's the thing worldwide is corrupt. But on top of that, what else do you want to do? He talked about the repugnancy of secret societies. Right, so the repugnancy of secret societies cannot exist alongside a free and democratic nation, because there's nothing free or democratic about a secret society. So basically, the same thing that Trump said. It's the same speech that Trump just gave about the globalist speech that just came out, that he just had at his UN. 30 days later, Kennedy was assassinated. So, I mean, Kennedy had gone a step further than Trump has gone to that point, which is he was trying to remove the central bank, and he had already got to the point of creating the new Kennedy dollar. So that's the things that we're going to be looking at doing here in Western Canada. If we end up separating, we have to, of course, create our own currency, create our own system. So what happens to your mortgage? What happens to all the rest of these things? That's what a lot of people say. What's going to happen to your mortgage? Well, the reality is the banking system in Canada is so broke as it is around the world. But we're looking at the central banking systems coming down. That's why it's money right now. If you want money, if you got a little bit of security, right? They kind of looking at doubling their money. So if you got a house worth $500,000 and you need to borrow $250 and it's paid for, they'll loan you $250. They don't want to loan you $300, but they'll loan you $250 because they're loaning you fiat currency, and the fiat currency is about to come down. So that's another struggle you have in the world, and that's something else that's going on. So right now you've got quantitative easing going on again, just like it did in 2008. The backside of that is, as we can see right now, we go in there, we've had hyperinflation they don't talk about, but the fact you go in a grocery store with $100 and you walk out with a little baggie. In the States it's not as bad, but in Canada it's horrible. But a lot of that has to do with these progressives and liberal pieces of shit that run our country. So I mean, those guys are deeply embedded into our bureaucracies. So Trump was right when he called them faceless bureaucracies and political establishments that are agenda driven, that have nothing to do. They get elected and have nothing to do with their people, do with the wishes of their people. So that's a good thing about revolutions, is you actually remove these people. Do you remove them and just spank them? No, you actually kill them. Right? Is that a bad thing? No, it's actually a really good thing, because they don't come back. So you might say, well, that's kind of harsh, but in Canada we're at that point. We've got to the point, not just in Canada, but around the world. These globalists, that's what Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 is all about. People, I mean, give your head a shake. They're talking about eliminating 7 billion of you, right? That's me too. You think they're going to let me live? I don't think so. I might be one of the number one guys who's going to get eliminated. But here's the thing: they want to limit 7 billion of you in 10 years and 3 months. 10 years and 2 months. This is over 2 months. So by that time, they want 7 billion of us dead. How are they going to do that? Well, as you see, right, the liberals, the progressives, they keep trying to take your access to wilderness places away from you, because we have to let the animals, the animals have sex, right? Let's limit your ability on, if you live in a rural area or agricultural land. Let's control that so you don't have any say over your own property. Let's move everybody into large centers where it's easy to starve you to death. I think some of you people have heard me talk about SCADA systems, supervisor control and data acquisition systems. These are computer systems that run and control the switches and valves and for your electrical grid systems, on your sewer systems, on your traffic lights, right? So I mean, all the things, your natural gas systems. So once they get you all sitting in cities, they just quickly shut down the grids. There you go. 3 days from now, the food's all rotting. Whatever is left, a week from now, you're eating each other. They're trying to get you used to that idea, eating each other already. That becomes the new norm. The reason they're talking about that, and all the different type of sacrificial things and satanic crap they're coming out with, is because this is a lot of the crimes they're about to face. And if they can desensitize you to it and get you used to it, well, you're not going to be too upset when you hear about them, torturing children and eating them. Oh well, who cares, right? We're used to it now. So I mean, that's one of the reasons when you're dealing with guys like the liberals, right, the Democrats in the U.S., whatever they want to call themselves in Europe, all the same thing. They're globalists. They're scum, right? I mean, the money doesn't mean anything to them anymore. They have it all. They collect 97% of every dollar that's available in the world every year, and let the rest of us scrap over 3%. So when Trump says there's going to be lots of money, he's not kidding. There's going to be a lot for everybody, because once we get rid of these people and we quit with this debt slavery, right? Do you think we're going to pay them? Absolutely not. In Canada, we actually have a program. You've heard me talk about it before. It's called Comer versus Bank of Canada, and I mean, God bless the people that fought so hard. So I can't remember the guy's name anymore, but he started in '86 with it. Galati, I think it's Galati was his lawyer. Another woman came on side with him to help him out. They were, thank God these guys stood up. Right, they stood up. They've got it sitting there. Just a matter of our judiciary. Well, that's a good thing about Revolutionary War, right? Is we'll have a new judiciary, so we don't have to worry about them all being liberal anymore. So, am I advocating for that? No, I'd rather see the conservatives get in and expose the deep state and expose the swamp, drain it, get rid of it, clean it up, right? Let's get rid of this. These central banks are going to come down anyhow, whether they come down this year or probably, I think they'd like to try to bring them down next year to try to collapse the world economy in hopes of getting rid of Trump. But, I don't think it's going to happen. So probably early 2021, they're going to come down for sure. Once that happens, you can basically, we live in a different world. I mean, those old enough to remember what happened when they come off the gold standard, the effect then was a little bit different because they just slid from one standard to the next. You had the issues in '73, of course, with the Saudis, and that's when they had to go cut and create the petrodollar. So that was to come off the gold standard in the U.S. in '71. No, that was because basically the U.S. were stealing people's gold, and they kind of knew that. That started with Johnson after Kennedy was executed. So here you got, once you get back on something like the gold standard, now you have real money. You have something that's backing it. Therefore, money no longer has the wild fluctuations. They created these central banks that started back in 1913 in the U.S. The idea behind the creation of the central bank, it actually started earlier than that, when President Jackson denied the second bank, and then they came up with a guy with 2 loaded pistols and fired them both into his belly, and both of them misfired. They were a little annoyed at him. The next guy who got in an argument with and refused to put the central bank in after he had borrowed some money from him was a guy by the name of Lincoln. And then, of course, you had a few other guys get executed on the way. So by 2019, or 1913, sorry, the Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S. got in. Yeah, the whole central banking system actually started in UK. It was after the 100-year war between between U.S. and France, UK and France, and the Rothschilds having banks in all the major centers of Europe at that time. They got their word first to their cousins in the UK, and they own the papers. So like you see today with the papers, right? It's been fake news forever. They just decided to say, okay, the UK lost the war, so the world was over. So everybody was dumping their stocks. Everything went, if it was worth $100, 5 minutes ago, now it was worth a penny. So they bought everything up for next to nothing. So, the next day the real news came in, and oops, we're sorry, but now we own everything. They had to actually loan the government money to the crown money to pay their bills, and created the bond system and basically the usury system we're on today. Just in case for those of you that don't know any history at all, but so that's where we're at. Are we going to have a revolutionary war? That'd be nice. I mean, if we're gonna separate and end up in a civil war, I'd rather see a revolutionary war. If the people back east listen to this, I mean, there's lots of room out west. If push comes to shove, right? There's lots of room out here. So don't worry about it. Now, as far as BC, I was just going to finish off in BC. 5% of the population, 5% of the landmass of BC, that's being generous, voted for the NDP. They didn't actually. And it was a stolen election, as everybody knows. It's kind of what we got to be careful doesn't happen here in federally, because if that happens federally, then whatever we've talked about is going to happen. So we've got a minority government that should have never existed. They were never elected. Unfortunately, that's the problem with the minority system. We end up with a minority system. So here we have the people that where their stronghold is in the Lower Mainland and in Vancouver Island. So this little group of about 5% of the population that produces the rest of it, the other 95% produces almost 95 almost 100% of the resources. You're looking at probably a good 70% of the GDP, the raw GDP. They like to say, okay, well, no, the sale of the real estate and all the rest of that crap, that's way more money, and blah 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 blah. None of that, because you have the stock exchange there again, and your banking system is based for the province out there. Yes, you're floating money back and forth there at a greater extent, but that money has to have a basis from somewhere. It had to come from somewhere. So, I mean, agriculture. What are you going to do without agriculture? Right? What are you going to do without? I mean, because the idea is, separation is going to be a pretty simple thing. I think about 95% of BC is going to say yes. The other 5% in the Lower Mainland might say no, but you know what? They're pretty easy to isolate. You isolate the Lower Mainland, isolate the island. The island's had its own separation movement forever. Maybe we'll let them have it, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that all depends on what's going on. So, what happens in this election? We split the vote. We end up with a minority government. Well, you can see the insanity that's going on here with the lunatic left in in BC. So if you want that, well, basically it's a continuation of liberal stupidity, and we're all done with that. You guys have a great day.